The T-Rex was one of the most fearsome carnivores that ever existed. And while it's not quite the biggest or strongest, its sheer size and powerful jaws make it a serious threat to anyone dumb enough to get in its way. But what if you managed to restrain the dinosaur somehow and force it open wide? Could a T-Rex's bite crush a car like a soda can? Let's take a closer look at this Dino's jaws and find out. The idea of a Tyrannosaurus Rex eating a car may seem pretty far, but there are some animals alive today that eat metal. And while these animals aren't eating cars, they show us how strong a T-Rex's jaws really were. So let's first talk about how we know just how strong the T-Rex's jaws were. The best estimate for the bite strength of a living animal is its maximum bite force. Maximum bite force is the amount of pressure a creature can exert on its prey using its teeth. It's measured in the same way as stress, psi or pounds per square inch. For reference, humans have an average maximum bite force of around 12 psi. Anything over 1000 psi is considered extremely strong. A lion has a bite force of around 1000 psi, so they're pretty darn strong biters. But that's nothing compared to a T-Rex, which had a maximum bite force of between 8000 and 12,800 psi. This makes them the most powerful biters that ever lived. But before you go worrying about dinosaurs suddenly rising from the dead and starting a killing spree, keep in mind that these numbers are calculated using different methods. Most animals, including humans and lions, have their bite forces measured by researchers putting pressure gauges on their teeth and then having them bite down on them. It's important to note that when a lion bites down on its prey, it's not using its full bite force right away. They typically start with a bite that's less than half the strength of their maximum bite force and only use more force if necessary. Dinosaurs didn't preserve with pressure sensors in their mouths, so scientists have to use a different method to calculate their bite forces. Instead, paleontologists measure the diameter and cross-section of fossilized jawbone and tooth specimens to estimate muscle size and bite force. While this is a lot less precise than measuring a live animal, it's still a useful tool for estimating the strength of a prehistoric chomp. Using this method, scientists estimate that the T-Rex had a bite force somewhere in the range of 8,000 to 12,800 psi. To put that into perspective, that's 10 times stronger than a lion's bite. Okay, now that we know just how powerful a T-Rex's bite was, let's answer the question. Could it crush a car? Well, that depends on what kind of car you're talking about. Cars vary widely in their build quality and the materials they're made from. Some models are lighter and use thinner metals to save on cost, while others are heavier and use thicker metals for extra protection. So there isn't one definitive answer to this question. It would depend on the specific vehicle. For example, in 2016, engineers at the University of Central Lancashire in the UK attempted to smash a Ford Fiesta using the jaws of a robotic Tyrannosaurus Rex. They found that while the car was heavily damaged, it wasn't completely crushed. This suggests that the car's metal body was probably around 2 millimeters thick, which is on the thinner side. On the other hand, the metal on an armored car is often around 75 millimeters thick. That's nearly 30 times thicker than the metal in a car like the Fiesta. Based on this information, we can probably assume that a T-Rex could crush a thin car like a soda can, but it wouldn't be able to do the same to an armored vehicle. If the T-Rex clamped down on a regular car with its massive jaws, it would likely be able to crunch through the metal. However, if it bit down on an armored car, the teeth would probably just get worn down in the process. Even though a T-Rex couldn't eat through an armored car, that doesn't mean it wouldn't try. Armored vehicles are designed to withstand high-powered weapons, fire, and explosions, but they aren't necessarily designed to withstand attacks from giant meat-eating dinosaurs. It all comes down to how the material is being attacked. The steel used to make armored vehicles is often tested for things like bullet resistance and explosive penetration, but nobody's tested it against a T-Rex's jaws, so we don't know how well it would hold up. What we do know is that a T-Rex's jaws could easily pierce a regular car's body, and while it might not be able to eat straight through an armored vehicle, it probably could break through it in a few spots. This could allow dangerous shrapnel and debris to escape the vehicle and injure or even kill the people inside. So while it's probably safe from a T-Rex attack, an armored vehicle does have some potential weak points, and those weak points could spell trouble for the people inside if a T-Rex got loose and started going on a rampage. Now, you might be wondering why I haven't mentioned the elephant in the room yet. The fact that dinosaurs went extinct about 66 million years ago, and that there are no living dinosaurs today. And you'd be right. It seems silly to talk about a T-Rex biting down on a car when neither animal has been around for millions of years to see the other one. And it does seem silly. In reality, dinosaurs and cars simply never overlapped in time. Dinosaurs were around for about 165 million years, from the Triassic period until the end of the Cretaceous period. During this time, mammals were around, but they were small and mostly nocturnal, so they didn't pose much competition. The first cars weren't invented until around 100 years ago, so there was a pretty big gap between the last dinosaur and the first car. And since there's no overlap, we'll never know what a dinosaur would have thought of a car. However, there are plenty of animals alive today that share some characteristics with dinosaurs. Some of these animals can tell us how a dinosaur might react to seeing a car, and what we learn from them paints a pretty interesting picture. While dinosaurs and modern animals like birds and reptiles seem very different, they're actually closely related. Birds are considered to be the closest living relatives of dinosaurs. In fact, some scientists argue that they're technically dinosaurs, which means that anything that applies to one should also apply to the other. So studying how birds react to cars can help us understand how a dinosaur might react if it saw one. Surprisingly, it turns out that birds are generally curious about cars. When presented with a strange object like a car, birds will usually investigate it, often by trying to eat it. A group of Indian peafowl once spent a whole afternoon pecking and scratching at a car, and a magpie was once recorded trying to push a car out of the road, like it was a large ball. This behavior isn't limited to wild birds. Domestic chickens have also been observed trying to eat cars. They seem to be especially attracted to shiny objects like cups. All this tells us that if a T-Rex came across a car, it would probably try to eat it, and based on its powerful jaws, it would probably be able to crush a thin car. But what about the birds that share DNA with the mighty T-Rex? What do they think of cars? Surprisingly, they seem to be just as fascinated by them as their smaller flightless cousins. Domestic chickens aren't the only birds that are interested in cars. Wild birds like starlings and black-crowned night herons have also been documented trying to eat cars. There's a lot that we don't know about dinosaurs, but we do know that many of them were scavengers. This means that if a dinosaur came across a dead animal, it would likely try to eat it. Since a car is basically a hunk of metal shaped like a dead animal, it's not surprising that a dinosaur might mistake it for a dead animal and try to eat it. This brings us back to our original question: could a T-Rex crush a car? Well, based on the evidence we've looked at today, it seems like it could crush a regular car, but it probably wouldn't be able to eat through an armored vehicle without damaging it. In the end, we'll probably never know exactly how a dinosaur would react to a car because they went extinct long before cars were invented. But by studying animals that are related to dinosaurs, we can get a glimpse of what might have happened. And who knows, maybe one day we'll discover a dinosaur that still exists today, and we can finally put this question to rest. Thanks for coming along on this journey through time to find out whether or not a T-Rex could crush a car. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe for more fun science stuff, and be sure to leave a like if you learned something new. All the sources used are added in the description below. Until next time, see you later.